Roughly 80 years ago, a group of children discovered the home of someone who has been dead for at least 12,000 years, and completely on accident. They found makeshift oil lamps, hunting artifacts, and even a skeleton decorated in primitive jewelry. But the best part is, you can visit where this happened yourself, and see one of the first works of art ever consciously created on Earth. Go back to the year 1940, to the small town of Lascaux, France, to a dog and a group of 4 children playing on some rocky ground. As they ran around, the dog fell through a hole in the rocks, and naturally the children crawled down after him and found themselves in the dark recesses of this hidden cave. And what they saw in the cave made them stare in awe, because drawn all over the walls were these huge images of bison, horses, deer, and cattle in motion. Some of the beasts were outlined in black, and others were filled with bright, vivid, earthy colors. When word spread of the children's find, scientists began examining these strange drawings and testing them to determine their age. The conclusions these scientists reached were truly startling. The pigments on the walls proved to be at least 12,000 years old, and possibly as old as 32,000 years. This discovery would then make these drawings the oldest record yet unearthed of men's history on this planet, and the work of the world's first artists at the time of their discovery. But who were these artists? Our best guess is that they were the men of the Magdalenian tribe, and they spent most of their lives hunting for animals in order to provide food and clothing for the tribe, and who drew pictures of the beasts that they killed.
Modern alignment of the fragments, and then taken that solid model and actually printed it in 3 dimensions, and then having printed the skull, we've then given it to Elizabeth Dynas, who's a forensic reconstruction artist.
So I'm really pleased that we're able to get a new and much more accurate reconstruction of what that skull actually looked like. And for the general public, this is very important to see Magdalenian woman as an individual brought to life by our science.
The pictures found on the cave walls in Lascaux aren't the only ones discovered in recent years. Other cave drawings have been found in southern Spain, Portugal, Sicily, and some of them even more magnificent than the Lascaux art. Perhaps the most famous is a drawing of a wounded bison and his hunters, found in Altamira, Spain. The dying animal is depicted with a certain grandeur as he continues to protect himself with lowered horns from his attackers. The artist who drew it probably not only feared the beast, but must have felt a little bit in awe of him. But this begs the question, where did these early artists get their paint from? Well, the short answer is they made them themselves out of the material they had at hand. Clay and minerals in the soil, which they ground up very finely, and then took those pigments and then mixed them with water, oil, or animal fat to make this thick paste in which they rubbed on the surface of the cave walls. And it is interesting to note that these drawings were not done near the surface or entrance to the cave. The artists always chose the deepest and darkest recessions of the caves for their artwork. But why? Were they afraid of other jealous cavemen that might find their work and destroy it? Or was there a more mysterious reason for these actions? Some scientists believe that the animal drawings were part of this magic ritual that by picturing the beasts, the cave artists pursued so passionately they actually felt they were gaining power over them. And by showing the animals being killed by spears, the artists believed they were bringing the creatures under their control and making a kill all the more possible. Other scientists say that artists believed that the drawings gave them the power to communicate directly with their gods in secret ceremonies. Still, others claim that the artists believed the drawings gave them the strength and courage the animals themselves possessed in life. Then again, it might even be possible that these cavemen simply drew to express their feelings and share them with others. We may never know for certain, but one thing we do know with some certainty is that it is no accident that these artists worked on the surface of the cave walls, because some of the paintings take on the form of the rock that they were drawn on. And think for a moment of the times that you have looked up at the clouds and imagined an animal or some sort of object from its shape. The cavemen, staring at the walls of these caves, probably did much of the same thing, seeing the shape of the walls take on the shape of the animals they hunted. And in this sense, nature itself was the guiding hand of the world's first artists. It's important to mention that the caves were open to the public for a few decades after their discovery, but were ultimately closed in 1963. The tourists inadvertently tracked in fungus on the bottom of their shoes and changed the humidity of the caves with their breath, if you can believe it. And in the brief 23 years that the caves were open, they degraded more during that time than they had in the past 10,000 years. Still, not wanting to lose out on their prized tourist attraction, the city gathered a group of the most talented artists, meticulously recreating the cave in a replica they called Lascaux 2. And if you're really interested in the Magdalenian culture responsible for these amazing works of art, you can revisit whatever remnants are left of their culture at the National Museum of Prehistory in France, where they have many artifacts, including fishing hooks, spearheads, oil lamps made out of rocks, jewelry, and even ancient skeletons. But with the pandemic heavily affecting travel, many of you may not get the chance to go and see in person any of this. So a virtual tour of the Lascaux caves was created, and here are some of the highlights from that tour. If you liked today's video, please be sure to let me know and drop a like down below. And if you like my content, please consider subscribing so you don't miss my 1 or 2 weekly videos. And while you're at it, check out my latest video here where I talk about the craziest things that happened on New Year's Eve. Anyways, that is all for me. I'll see y'all in the next video.